presiding over a large mass of employees, loan officers, banking clerks, all of that, uh, and run it in this way, it full of antagonism between the top and the bottom. The inequality of their situation promotes every kind of violence, of cheating, of crooked activity, which we're catching in all banks all the time anyway. Maybe you ought to rethink the whole private social divergence. Is that something you picked out to hold on to capitalism to some degree, but out of a logic that said you had to do that? I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I am saying that ought to be interrogated. That ought to be debated. We ought to have that kind of, and at the same time, why are we organizing our enterprises the way we are? Why, if it's socialism with Chinese characteristics, might that not question the employer-employee relationship? Why are we organizing our businesses, banking or otherwise, this way? Maybe we oughtn't to. Maybe a compromise would be, if the society is full of the need to cooperate in order to have any community, maybe that would be good inside the enterprise too, especially if it's a socially focused enterprise, the way the management of money has to be. Those are the questions I thought, or I would add to what Michael says, that this crisis would provoke. And I do believe that if this crisis provokes that, it will have the good side. In other words, it'll be the good part of a crisis, the part that makes you rethink how you got yourself into this crisis so you don't do it again.
Well, I've had professorships at a number of Chinese universities, and I've asked exactly the question that Richard just asked. Why are they doing things the way they're doing, privatization? And I've got the same answer everywhere, that they send their economic students to the United States to take economics courses, to be trained. And when the Chinese students get back to China, those who studied in the United States are given priority over those who have studied in China. And what do they study in China? They do study Marxism and socialism, but only volume 1 of Capital. And I find out that very few have read volumes 2 and 3 of Capital, where Marx discusses finance and rent primarily. And friends of mine other professors have made exactly the same question. Now I think it's finally the time that they're going to ask Richard's question: why are we doing things the way the United States does it? They have a golden opportunity. It's very hard to change an existing system and all of a sudden take the existing banks and just sort of restructure them. But China has a golden opportunity in the financial crisis right now. It can let these private banks go under and then say, well, of course, we're not going to let the regular depositors suffer. We're going to make all of the positive, real economic functions of a bank work, but we're not going to bail out the big depositors. There's no reason to give them. We're not going to bail out the wealth of the bank owners because they own something that went broke. And so we're going to do just what Milton Friedman would say. We're going to let the magic of the marketplace cure everything. And that's going to clear the road for what they can do is socialism. You mentioned public banking in South Dakota. That's certainly a better idea for governments to keep their money in a government bank. The one thing that the Bank of North Dakota can't do is create enough money to fund all of the public spending. Only the federal government is empowered to create money, either by the Treasury or by the Federal Reserve. The good thing about China is it doesn't have a Federal Reserve Bank. It doesn't have a central bank, basically. It has the Bank of China, but that's really like the Treasury. It's an arm of the government. It's not a central bank that's run on behalf of the commercial banks to act as lobbyists. So China can write down the debts and save the banks and let the banks go under without really having any vested interest to fight back, such as would occur in the United States. So that's the good side. It has a free rein right now to do whatever it wants, to do the kind of policies that Richard has explained. France is certainly a wonderful example of doing this. You don't want to privatize finance. And the one thing that has made Chinese socialism so successful, so different from the capitalist road, is it's kept money creation as a public utility